Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Coin Drop Podcast. This is episode 65, and joining me again once more as we bring you the freshest and greatest gaming news on the internet. I'm going to stand by that claim.
And the best takes, too.
And the best takes, the hottest takes, the coldest takes, the hot pancakes. Tim, how you doing, man? How's your week?
Pancakes. Just another week, man.
Yeah.
Sadly, have yet to touch that PSVR 2, but I've been thinking about it every day. I'll have to him one of these days.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep dreaming about it as it sits there in its box, taunting you.
Yep. That's exactly what it's going to be doing.
I'm still dying, so that's great. The wife and daughter are better. I'm still slowly dying. But
it's funny you say that. As you say that, the character on screen is bleeding.
Yes.
Or puking blood.
Yes, this character and I are very akin to each other. I feel his pain greatly because my pain is all inside, but he's suffering on the outside. So before we jump into this, we do have a Patreon. Patreon. God, I'm going to try and make it through this episode, guys. I apologize. We have one of those. Best way to support us is over there. For $3 a month, you get early access to our episodes, extra content, special color to your name on Discord, and some private Discord channels on our Discord. So, a bunch of good stuff for relatively cheap. We have some higher tiers there, too, if that's of interest to you. But if you want to check that out, check it out at patreon.com/coindroppod. So, let's talk about what we have on screen. This is the First Berserker Kazan. I know nothing about this game, Tim. What do you got for me? Because
Okay, so this one is basically it's based on the DNF franchise. The I actually don't remember exactly what that stands for.
Did not finish.
Right. Hold on a second. They actually made their first game. To my understanding, it's a multimedia franchise.
Okay.
But the first game that they created is a fighter, like a Street Fighter like game. And this one is taking that universe and making a hack and slash video game. And it follows the main character Kazan, as you can see in the game or in the trailer here. It at first glance to me kind of looks like a Souls-like, but they don't describe it as such in any way, shape, or form in any of their media or anywhere else, really. They actually call it a fast-paced hack and slash game. So to me, it doesn't look terribly fast-paced, but it does look like, when I think fast-paced, I think like Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, and stuff like that.
The man does look half dead, so it could be the beginning of the game, you know?
It could be. So that's a fair point. I mean, he is definitely jumping around and stuff, but just the way the camera moves and the way he moves, I guess the way the
combat flow.
Yeah, the combat flow, the enemy lock, all that stuff does feel more Souls to me. But we'll see. They talk about it basically. There's two characters that my guess is the game is going to follow, Kazan and Ozma, and basically they are heroes who saved the Pelos Empire from the Berserk dragon Hismar. And I guess those two characters, once they've killed this dragon, the main character that you play as is actually accused of treason, and he's then outcast, and he has to somehow make his name come back. I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. This is the first gameplay trailer we're seeing. I don't remember exactly when this was announced, but I believe it was over the last year.
It was a while ago, because I do remember seeing something about it. Let me see if I can look that up while you're talking.
Yeah. So they're saying the story, basically you become him and you have to what, actually I'm looking at this now, and I'm not sure if what I told you originally is not the precursor of the game, but actually the game. The about portion of it says this, but then the story says that actually you become the hero, the ancestors of all slayers, and the one who defeated Berserker Dragon Hismar, and proceed uncovering the truth. Okay, so I was correct. The first step, uncovering the truth of his downfall within the Empire.
As you can tell, we've been doing this for 65 episodes. We're so good,
right? Yeah, I mean, I can't remember everything after reading it one time, but in any case. Like I said, they call it a frenetic hack and slash style game mixed with hardcore action, devastating battle awaits you, etc. So they're what they're calling is an RPG where you can not only upgrade your character like in very many similar games where abilities and all that other fun stuff, but you can also build your character with different play styles based on weapons and armor you get. I don't know if that means you're going to be able to upgrade the armor and stuff, but presumption would tell you that's going to be the case. The key features are a little weird. So like the key features not spelled out or not detailed out are you must prevail, you must remember, and you must reclaim. So that's why I say it's weird. But if I do read them out, the you must prevail says survive the Imperial forces' relentless pursuit and conspiracies to kill Kazan and overcome the harsh environments you encounter. Again, like they don't really give you much detail.
Yeah, they're not
strange.
giving you a
Like, bullet points. It's bullet points that don't tell you anything.
Yeah.
So
It just tells you kill shit, which I mean.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So what I would suggest you do, this trailer that's playing right now is a 15-minute trailer, and I would just Google the First Berserker Kazan and look up the Gamatsu article, and they've got that 15-minute trailer on there, and they also have another video that's 5.5 minutes long that quote unveils the universe of this game, so you can get some decent details and a better understanding, without having to listen to me bumble about it.
So it looks like this is being published by Nexon, which I wasn't aware of that. It was originally teased as Project Overkill in 2021, but the first gameplay trailer was shown off in 2020. Well, not gameplay trailer, but it was first officially revealed as the First Berserker in December of 2023. So it's
So that's what I thought.
It's been around for a little bit. Yeah.
So it looks to be more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like not an open world game. It's very linear.
It does feel very linear from what we've seen so far. Again, we're going off of 15 minutes, which is probably towards the beginning of the game. So it could open up and become an open world game. I don't see that being likely, but it could be.
To be fair, Final Fantasy 13 was linear for the first 20 hours and then opened up. So who knows?
I like the art style though. It's that perfect cell shaded but dark, realistic, gritty. I'm a big fan. I think it looks really good.
Plenty of blood and stuff.
Yeah. It definitely feels like a barbarian game, which is exactly what I want.
It's definitely up my alley too. It's something I feel like I've been saying a lot lately. It feels like video games are moving backwards into the level of PlayStation 2, early PlayStation 3 era, where they're just going for fun, less realism, and they want to make you enjoy what you're playing rather than enjoy what you're looking at. Right. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean you can do both, but not everybody should do both. I think it kind of the level design of this, in a weird way, kind of reminds me of Shinobi on the PS2. Shinobi felt really open, but it was super linear through that, right? You felt like you could potentially go anywhere, but it's very clear there was one path through it. So I don't know. It looks cool. I like the over-the-top blood and guts. It fits very well with the name. I don't know anything about the developer. Neoply? Is that how you say it?
I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I think this might be their first game. Yeah. Honestly.
It's coming to PC, right?
Yeah, it's coming to play. I believe it's coming to everything: PlayStation, PC, and Xbox.
Yeah.
But obviously, except for Switch, because fuck you guys.
So this is actually it's in DNF. It's they made the DNF games too, Dungeon Fighter Online. So this is their It's technically second game, but yeah. Dungeon Fighter Online is apparently also free.
Is that what it's called? Online?
Yeah, Dungeon Fighter Online.
But it's DNF.
Yeah, I don't know.
Strange. That doesn't make sense.
I don't know. Dungeon Fighter Online is their other game. It is not a fighter game, so I'm really confused. This is it's a brawler. It's Dungeon Fighter Online is classic.
You're talking about Dungeon Fighter Online. I'm sorry, I'm thinking DNF Duel. My bad. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting where that's coming from. This developer's only made Dungeon Fighter Online and the First Berserker.
Yeah, okay. So there is another DNF game. It's called DNF Duel. It's a fighter, like a literally Street Fighter fighter.
Right.
But I didn't realize there was a Dungeon and Fighter online.
Well, it's just Dungeon Fighter Online. That's the game
whatever.
that this game, the people that made this game, man, we're really good at this. The people that make
No, this is based off the DNF universe.
I understand. What I'm
and
saying
DNF
is
Duel is also.
what I'm saying is the people who are making this game, the only other game they've made is Dungeon Fighter Online. That's what I'm saying, Tim.
No, I
Okay.
understood that.
All right.
I guess maybe whatever.
It just got lost in translation there. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'm
more or
sick.
less,
My brain
yeah.
don't work no good, and I can't communicate. So it's a perfect time to do a podcast, right?
Shit happens.
Anyways, Dungeon Fighter Online is apparently a free-to-play beat-em-up classic brawler thing with mixed reviews. So that's their other title that this developer has released. So we'll see how the first Berserker plays out for him. But
It looks really good. So
it looks like
see
it
if
could be.
actually
I mean,
turns
it's
out to be. Yeah.
single-player narrative story-driven games are kind of my vibe, especially linear ones now, where it's like I can step away from it for more than 12 hours and not have to worry
Yes.
about like, oh, what the fuck? Where was I? What was I doing?
Be able to follow it exactly.
Yeah. I'm saying, man, games still need that feature. They need like when they first open up the game and you make your save file, it should have a prompt that goes, "Are you an adult with a full-time job and other responsibilities?" And if you click yes, if the game shuts off for more than 20 hours and you go back to playing it, it should go, "Hey, do you want a recap on where you're at in the game and the controls and everything real quick so that you can be refreshed on it?" Games need that. Games need that bad.
There was a game like that for like PS2, and I can't remember what it was.
God, it'd be so
Every
nice.
time you can, I feel like it was that. Damn it! I know exactly what it looks like, and if I see it, I'm gonna go, it's one, but I can't remember what it is. But I remember absolutely adoring it. Anyways, whenever you turned it on, it gave you a recap of the last several hours of what you played, so you can be like, okay, that's where I left off at. And it was such a wonderful feature. It doesn't make sense to me that games don't do that all the time.
I imagine it's probably a coding thing, right? Like you've got to be like, you're basically pulling data from the save file to go, okay, this is what you did, and you've got to track all of that. I don't know. I imagine there's some coding there that's probably a little bit of a hurdle, but who knows? It would be a great feature though, especially for games that like I've got to go and continue my play of Kingdom Come Deliverance because I've been playing BG3 for a little bit, and I know where I left off because I've done the editing for all the upcoming videos on my YouTube. But like, woof, I'm not looking forward to relearning the tricky mechanics of that game because it's been a minute since I played it. Yeah. I mean, I want to play it. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm in it now. Like I'm here for it. It's got me interested, but not looking forward to relearning the clunky combat. God, I hope they fix that in the second one. So we'll see. What?
I don't remember this. So I just did an AI search of what games gave you a recap, and so one, I don't remember The Last of Us doing that. It says The Last of Us 2020 or 2013 game did that. Give you the story so far when loading a save. Don't remember that. Mass Effect, also don't remember that. Previous mission summary when loading a save, and then Assassin's Creed, the first one. And then, to be fair, that's 2007. That's near 20 years ago, so maybe it's possible. But it says it showed a memory sequence recap when loading a save. I don't remember that, but whatever.
I don't recall that at all either. I remember the white screen where I'd run around with my swords out and just fucking cut at the air while I waited for the game to load.
Yeah, you'd run around in circles or whatever.
Yeah.
And jump around. Yeah, I remember that quite a bit too.
Huh. Even Strix says that doesn't sound familiar. Mass Effect, no. I could see here's the thing, right? Like loading screens have gotten to a point where like they're very short. So if you're putting information there, you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
Like
sadly, a lot of developers are still trying to put data there, and you're just like, oh, hey, I read the first two. Oh, never mind.
There was I was watching an episode of Game Grumps, and they were playing oh god, what's that fucking Peaks of Yore or whatever it is, the like weird early 1900s climbing game, Peaks of something another, and the developers put like in the loading screen a ton of like important historical information, and one of the guys would like start to read it, get 3 words in, and then just go okay, because the loading screen be done. It's like in
fast,
19 okay, I guess it's gone. And if you're going to that seemed like it was going to be important.
You'd think that if they're going to give you information like that, they would allow you to choose
when to proceed.
When to proceed the load. Yeah, exactly. Because you might actually be interested in that. They don't put super important information in the loading screens if it's going to last for 2 seconds.
It's really important to remember that if you're in a fight and this happens, you need to missed that last word. Don't know what it was. Don't know what it was.
Hopefully I see it next time it loads.
You're about to fight a very difficult boss. The trick here is loading screen's gone.
Yep. That's actually kind of funny. I was playing Final Fantasy 14 earlier, and I was playing a dungeon, and there's the mechanics on the bosses, and I died like 3 times in a row, and I'm like, okay, I guess I have to look up the mechanics. So I looked up the mechanics online, and they're like, you need to do this, and it didn't work. So I was like, the fuck?
Yeah, just do this. Just Alt F4, Tim, and then hit Control Alt Delete, and then delete System 32, and then you're done. Yes. You won. You beat it.
I win.
You win.
Yep. I eventually figured it out. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. Loading screen information used to be good in a time when like loading screens were like they took a while, right?
Yeah.
There was one game. I feel like Dot Hack was like episodic. The Dot Hack games had like an episodic vibe to it. Until Dawn did it really well too. The Supermassive Until Dawn.
Yeah, those
because every time you'd load a chapter, it'd go over like your previous chapter. Obviously, the chapters were super short, so unfortunately, it didn't really make a ton of sense. But
no, there were some games that did do that well.
Yeah. It would be nice to have that feature for adults who don't have all the time to play video games. And you might set a game down for 2 weeks before coming back to it, or like a year or 2, like me with God of War, which I still haven't beaten.
Yep.
I know, dude.
Rogue Galaxy. That's the one I was thinking of earlier.
Okay.
Rogue Galaxy did such a phenomenal job of that. Every time we turned it on, there'd be, this is what happened last time.
Nice. Yeah, that needs to make a comeback in games. Recap of the story, especially if it's open world, man. Like, not even just like it just.
I would say if the storyline is longer than like 10 hours.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Especially because some games are like 90 hours long. Like, if your storyline's going to be that freaking long, then you definitely need to give me some sort of way of keeping up with this shit.
The Final Fantasy games should have that. That would be very useful. But yeah. Talking about games with useful mechanics. I don't know.
Loose? That works.
That kind of works. Marathon. The new game being developed at Bungie that is going to be a AAA extraction shooter is in a little bit of a rough spot.
Is this the first AAA extraction shooter?
It is now. We're going to talk about that.
Okay.
So we talked about the Bungie Blender last week.
The BBB?
Yeah, the BBB. Not to be confused with the BBB. Jason
Schreier.
That guy. God, one of these days I'm going to learn how to read. I'll do it on my deathbed.
At least it's not Tim, right?
Yeah. What did you call Tom?
Tom.
God damn it.
Something like that. It's been a long time since I brought that up.
Yeah, that's been a minute. Oh man, that's a deep cut on one of our early episodes. Like 3 times, dude, you called him that. Oh, too fucking
I just
funny.
Doing it after that.
Did. You really did. I was just like, God damn, this guy's gonna hate us. And he's a Patreon, so like, thanks, man. Thanks for continuing to support us with this idiot.
Yeah.
So Jason,
I did it on an episode with him.
You did, and he didn't correct you until like the end of the episode. It was wild.
It took a while.
It did. Jason Schreier.
Marathon.
Very knowledgeable guy in the industry. Definitely don't have anything bad to say about his predictions and his view of the industry. But I think he's
been very accurate throughout the last 10 years. Very, very accurate.
I think he's a little.
As many times I've been loath to admit it.
I think he's a little off base on this one, though, and not with the sentiment around Marathon from the developers. But basically, I'll read you guys some of this. This is off of an article on VGC. Basically, he said that he had spoken to the developers on Marathon to get a temperature check on what they were feeling about the game and the development and how things are going. And he said, quote, "There's a reason it was planned for this year and slipped a whole year. And people that I've talked to are a little pessimistic about it even hitting its current planned deadline. But we'll see. I don't know exactly what that is. Sometime in 2025, I'm not sure." So basically, the game was planned for this year. They were working towards this year, and it's slipped an entire year. So an entire another 365 days of development, which that's not like a delay for polish, right? Like that's a pretty big delay.
Yeah, 1 year is a huge delay.
So
there's some major issues with it.
It is, and I think a lot of that has to do with kind of what he mentions here. There was a shakeup in development, in leadership, if I am not mistaken. Where does it say that? The creative director, I think it is. Somebody stepped away. He said,
"Oh, one of the major heads. I can't remember what position that person had."
Anyways, a couple of the lead executives on the game stepped away, moved on to something else. That could have been disagreements with Pete Parsons, with Bungie in general. Could have been disagreements with Sony. Could have been just time to move to a different project. Whatever. Could have been a bunch of different reasons. But oh, here it is. It's literally in bold. Game director Christopher Barrett and executive producer Carrie Guskos, sorry if I butchered that name, left the project. So kind of, I wouldn't say the main minds behind it, because a game like this lives in a lot of people's minds, right? But definitely a driving force behind the game left, right? So it's never really good when that happens. We've seen franchises like Assassin's Creed stumble hard after Jade Raymond stepped away and let whatever the fuck happened to Assassin's Creed happen to it. Thankfully, they're finally getting their feet back under them. But this game's still in development. It has a lot of leeway on what it can be, on what direction it takes, because it doesn't I'm doing air quotes for our audio listeners, doesn't have an established backstory, right? It does if you're old enough, like me and Tim. Marathon is the game that was like Doom's competitor, and literally, it started Bungie and is arguably, technically, factually based in the Halo universe, which is really interesting that they were able to get this in there. But anyways, that's a whole nother tangent. The part that I have an issue with Jason saying is he said he has concerns its continued development may lead to a similar issue to that of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Now, there was a lot of problems with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, and I'm going to go over a couple of them here. I think that's grossly overestimating and just not being really over judgmental, I think is the best way to say that. So Marathon is not in the same realm as Suicide Squad at all. Suicide Squad is a live service game, genres, but it is an RPG looter shooter. Marathon is a PvP extraction shooter. He even says that he doesn't think that the Bungie fan base would be enthusiastic about a PvP extraction shooter. First of all, there is an entire subsection of Bungie players who play Destiny and literally only play Crucible. So you've already got your PvP fans there. Secondly, just because Bungie doesn't have extraction shooter fans doesn't mean they're not going to grab extraction shooter fans with this. Because as an extraction shooter fan, we're all still waiting for the promise that Tarkov gave us. A great extraction shooter that's open world. Now, that doesn't mean Marathon's going to be open world, but Marathon's a AAA extraction shooter. The only other company that was going to do that blew their game up when it was basically ready for release. I'm talking about Tom Clancy's The Division Heartland, right? We talked about that on this podcast, I think a couple months ago at this. A couple episodes ago. Mike, our editor, was very mad about that. I'm very mad about that because it was basically playable, ready to launch, and everyone in the extraction shooter community wants that. We want it.
I was actually pretty excited about it. And the game was practically feature complete. Like, it's not that it didn't need some work, but they could have just released it at the state it was and added small stuff to it. But anyways.
Yeah.
people want a good extraction shooter. They want a good, proper AAA extraction shooter, because so far it's been a double A or an indie title.
Yeah.
That's been smaller titles. I mean, I guess you can technically say the Division, has a small extraction shooter element to it with the
It was basically
Dark
built
Zone.
as one. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still like a small subset of what the game is. Therefore, it's not the main focus, and people want that as the main focus in a game. I don't care for them, but I know there's a lot of people that do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, the game was originally announced in May of 2023 and was supposed to launch in 2024. Was delayed a whole year, and apparently now is looking still pretty bad. But when I read that he compared it to being in a Suicide Squad level state, that does seem pretty harsh. Not a lot of games do that, and I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
He has some decent points, but here's the huge things that you got to remember. First of all, Gray Zone Warfare, the newest extraction shooter to come out that's trying to deliver on the promise of Tarkov, an open world extraction shooter, sold 500 million copies in 4 days.
500,000.
Sorry, 500,000. Not 500 million. Still,
that'd be a lot of copies.
500,000 in 4 days. Definitely a different number. Still a damn good number, right?
Especially for an indie title.
Especially for an indie title. We're talking about a AAA developer. The fact that a AAA is making an extraction shooter would probably do that in half a day. Just a guess. Especially from someone like Bungie, right?
Even though they've been having troubles,
they make the best shooting mechanics. Like when it comes to first-person shooters, no one does it better than Bungie, in my opinion. Like I'm not a huge Destiny fan, but damn it if they don't make shooters fun. Like they're fun. They always have been.
The shooting mechanics that they have are very good.
Yeah.
Personally, I think Killzone 2 had some of the best, but that's because of the weight that they added to it, which isn't in most shooters.
Yeah. And we're in a sci-fi shooter, so you don't really have a lot of weight, right? Like it's a little floaty, if anything. It's almost the exact opposite. It feels a little bit less grounded.
That's most games these days, and that's why I think I don't like most of them. It's maybe why I like Battlefield, because Battlefield also has a little bit of weight to it. Not quite as much as I would like, but still.
Yeah. But here's the things you got to remember about Kill the Justice League, Suicide Squad. That was coming from Rocksteady, the developer who made phenomenal Arkham games. They took an entire shift, not only in gameplay, but in game style, in everything. They went from what they did well to something brand new. Secondly, they overpromised and underdelivered, right? Bungie hasn't really said anything about Marathon other than it's an extraction shooter. These are our goals for what we want to make, and that's it. They haven't said shit. So I would say they haven't overpromised anything yet. They've barely even told us what the mechanics of the game are going to be. We've only just scratched the surface on what their thoughts are for this game. So they haven't overpromised, and they're making a game in the vein of something that they've been doing for almost 3 decades now. I think they just passed 25 years. So they're still doing a shooter. Yes, it's extraction, but at its core, a shooter's a shooter, right? So they're staying in their lane, and they're delivering an experience that is going to feel familiar to anybody who's played Halo, played Destiny, played any shooter.
Yep.
There is...
Go ahead. I think the real question I have is that, the whole deal with Bungie that we talked about last week, that Sony is now pretty much in full control of them.
Yeah.
And this game apparently might very well be delayed again into 2026. Do you think it's going to be multi-platform at this point with Xbox anyways? Because it's definitely going to come to PC still.
Yeah, no, it's definitely... It could be. I don't know. That's a good question. I think if it does... First of all, if the game doesn't get canceled, right? So that's the first big concern right here because of the shakeups, right? Because Sony is stepping in and taking over. I really hope it doesn't get canceled for multiple reasons, but... One, because it honestly sounds like a great game, in my opinion. It honestly sounds like something I would play the hell out of. If it does come to multi-platform, if it does go to Xbox, I think it'll be a timed exclusive kind of thing, where it'll be on PlayStation and PC exclusively for a while, and then come to Xbox. Honestly, at this point, it doesn't... With the cost of... with the investment cost to make a game, and this... is really weird for me to say because my brother and I used to go back and forth on this all the time. Exclusives don't make financial sense anymore. They just don't. They just don't.
Sony's been doing a damn good job.
Here's the thing. Here's the big thing. Yes, they're doing a damn good job. Would they do better if they released their game on the other systems?
I mean, it would sell. Goes without saying.
Yeah,
that goes without saying.
Right. So, like, I think,
but it's not about the games selling that makes them the money. It's the console sales.
Right. Well, they actually take a loss on console sales for the first year or whatever, but that's besides the point. I think timed exclusives make more sense with the cost investment on video games nowadays. I think Rockstar is going to see that issue almost immediately upon launch of GTA 6. I think that them releasing it solely on next-gen hardware, which I don't even want to call it next-gen at this point, current-gen hardware. Current gen. With them releasing it only on current-gen hardware, they're generation locking the game, and anybody on previous gen isn't going to be able to buy the game. It's not even launching on PC same day. They're legitimately limiting their sales through a weird...
That seems like a strange argument. Personally, I think they should not release it on last gen hardware because I've been wanting everyone to ditch last gen hardware for way too long now. But 4 years into the damn gen, we need to those need to be dumped now, please.
I agree.
But I do fully understand the whole PC side. Like that's stupid. Yep. They should release day and date on PC.
Yeah,
just end of story.
Anybody not releasing everywhere that they can is just basically losing out on money, and with the cost of games going up and the people getting late, like there's so many issues there. But if it does go to Xbox, it's going to be after it comes to PC and PlayStation.
See, the only reason I'm not sure about that because it really just depends on how much of the game is going to be altered. Like if it's going to continue along the same path, I'm sure they're going to release everywhere at the same time because that was the original plan.
Sure.
And there's no point in ripping that away. Now, if it sees some sort of major changes and it becomes a different game, then I can see them focusing on PlayStation and PC because it's a live service title and, they release both of those at the same time and then eventually bring it to Xbox. I can see that. But it just depends, in my opinion, based on my thought, process and all this. I don't necessarily think that they would skip Xbox unless some sort of major change happens, which is entirely possible.
Yeah, there is, of course,
depends on what Herman Holst does, really.
Yeah, there is, of course, the issue of the sunk cost fallacy, right? That is one thing that I do agree with Jason on. That was a major issue with Rocksteady. Rocksteady had.
I would say explain what the sunk cost fallacy is.
Yeah. So sunk cost fallacy is it's also called the gambler's fallacy, right? So it's you've invested so much into this, so much money, so much time, so much effort that it's more costly to walk away than it is to just continue. Right. So it's that idea that I've already put $3,000 in this slot machine. I'm due a payout. Like it's that idea. It's sunk cost fallacy, right? So that's not the case. You are always better off cutting your losses than continuing to build on losses. That's the reality.
Yeah. Just look at Sony's canceling of The Last of Us multiplayer.
Right.
That was 4 years in development with hundreds of people working on it. And they cut their losses there. So.
And I'm still not sure it was the right choice, but I wasn't privy to. Yeah, I'm not privy to how development was going, where it was at, what it was. There's stuff behind the scenes we're never going to know. But
of course,
Rocksteady had tunnel vision with kills or God damn it. Kill the
I wouldn't
Justice
blame Rocksteady for that. Honestly, I would fully blame the suits.
Right.
100%.
And I think most of it was the suits. I'm saying Rocksteady as in the entire company, not necessarily the devs, the bigwigs, right? The CEOs, the people who actually make the calls had tunnel vision. WB had tunnel vision saying, no, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. You're Rocksteady. You always make great stuff. It's going to be great. People are going to love it. And we didn't. We tried to tell them that, and they completely redesigned the game. And guess what? It still was bad.
Nope.
They still couldn't give it away for free.
Yeah, they struggled even with that. The player count did not jump very high at that point.
So, Bungie, through all of their good and bad, they are very good at listening to what the fans are saying and paying attention to what fans think and their feedback. Whether they take their feedback and implement it is a completely different thing. But with Bungie, they're hearing it all. They're seeing it all. And they're adjusting or not adjusting accordingly. Rocksteady tried, and they didn't really. I believe the developers were probably just as mad about the product that came out as the players.
Yeah, that's happened quite a bit with a lot of different developers these days.
But there is something to be said about the sunk cost fallacy. And just because I want Marathon to come out and I am adamant that I will buy it day and date and play the shit out of it does not mean that...
Assuming you have to.
Yeah, I could potentially get a free copy. Who knows? But I'm going to...
I just meant that maybe they'll release it as a free-to-play. Who knows?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah, probably not. But you never know. It's a game that of that style. They could monetize the hell out of it.
They could.
Therefore, free-to-play. Who knows?
They could. It doesn't necessarily mean the market is there for it. I think the extraction shooter community is chomping at the bit for some real developer to finally throw their hat into this arena. Just look at what Epic did with Battle Royales. The most successful Battle Royale in the world, Fortnite.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying.
They continue to be in a really, really good state. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, but like 6 months ago-ish.
Yeah.
They had more players than they'd ever had playing the game. And that's insane to me, given how old it is. Honestly, I think that the sunk cost fallacy is something we shouldn't have to worry about, given the whole restructuring that happened at Bungie. This was one of the games, the only game they kept.
Yeah, everything
Destiny,
else was trash.
That's it.
Yep,
yeah.
everything.
So I don't think we have too much to worry about when it comes to this game releasing. It just depends on when, really.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
State.
I think Sony's pretty good backing this. I'm hoping the shakeup at Bungie will see this grow for the better. And honestly, like, when it comes to live service shooters, I can't think of somebody that does it better than Bungie. The only other live service game I can think that's better than Destiny in terms of like supporting it, new content, always being on top of new stuff is Final Fantasy 14. I can't think of another live service game that does it better than Bungie does Destiny.
Oh, are you talking shooters or just in general?
In general. Other than Final Fantasy 14.
No, you can easily throw the Hoyoverse games, meaning the Genshin Impact game and whatnot. Like those games, they do so freaking good on. But also, I would say the Division did a really good job.
They did, but
they're still adding content to it. I mean, they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not as big as it once was, but it's also now like 6 or 7 years old. Heck, maybe even more than that. But anyways, there are quite a few games that have done it. I mean, technically, No Man's Sky is not a live service, but it gets updated like one. They just give it to you for free.
But player count wise, I'm pretty sure the Division 2 doesn't have the consistent player count as Destiny.
No, I highly doubt that.
But that's what I mean is that metric, because that's what matters in live service, right? Is concurrent players. So in this case, does it better is concurrent. Really. What's that?
People paying,
sure.
Stuff.
But expansion packs, platinum packs, that kind of stuff. I can't think of somebody other than Final Fantasy 14 that's a proper MMO that has as many concurrent players in that realm. I can't talk about the
I think World of Warcraft is probably the closest.
Yeah, probably. But they've hemorrhaged a lot of players. I don't even know what their concurrent players counts are now. Yeah. But anyways, I think Bungie's the right person for this. I think Jason's a little off base when he says that extraction shooters aren't hot anymore, air quotes. They are. People who like extraction shooters still like extraction shooters. 500,000 copies in 4 days for an indie, arguably quote unquote UE flip extraction shooter.
I think it's pretty clear that just about any extraction shooter that comes out that isn't obviously like an asset flip, i.e. the day before.
Yeah.
They all do pretty darn well because people want them to be good.
Yeah.
And they give them the light of day because they want a really good one. There's always been these like highly promised ones that are decent, but none of them that are great yet. And this genre needs its great entry.
Yeah.
It's system seller for lack of a better term.
Basically. Jason does own his own views here though, and I actually really appreciate that. He says excuse me, he says but then again, quote, but then again, If you had asked me in January, I would have been like, yeah, Helldivers 2, that game is going to tank so freaking hard. It just looks like a disaster. And of course, it turned out to be the biggest thing ever. So that's why I like to report instead of make predictions, basically. So he's owning that he could be completely off base here. And I think he is. Part of that is hope. Part of that's a little bit of bias, but part of that is also knowing like the extraction shooter community wants a good AAA shooter.
Well, I mean, I think Bungie's going to deliver on the mechanics for sure. I don't think there's really anything to worry about on there, and I also don't think it's going to be your typical extraction shooter. They're gonna do something to it that makes it unique and fun.
Yeah,
and they've got experience doing it. Now they've got the history of kind of making some bad decisions, but also hopefully in any case the old CEO is gone now, and Herman Holst helps out in that regard. I think there's a lot good going for them where this could be a pretty solid entry in, or just video game release in general, I guess.
Yeah. I'm hopeful for the future of Bungie. I'm hoping that under Papa Sony's wing, they will flourish again and hopefully get new projects and things like that. There was a confirmation that Destiny 3 was never in the works at Bungie, so I thought I'd mention that here, which I said in that episode after that quote-unquote Destiny game leaked that everybody was projecting to be Destiny 3. I'd eat my pants if it was Destiny 3. Was never going to be Destiny 3. They didn't say what it was, but they did confirm that it was not Destiny 3. Bungie has zero plans to do a Destiny 3, ever. They didn't want to do Destiny 2. I went over that in that episode. You can hear about it there. But
yeah.
That is... You got anything else?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That is kind of our main topics for tonight. So we're going to go over some quick fire news. This is a slightly shorter episode. I'm still sick as hell, and this is sucked to do, but I love doing this, so I'm here doing it. My head is killing me, and I want to die. Somebody put a 38 special bullet in my brain. Not really. Just joking. Dark humor. Starting off our quick fire news.
Yeah, go ahead and give yours.
One of my favorite and arguably the best isometric multiplayer game, or not isometric. What's it called? Anyways, 4v1 versus game. Brains on fire. Sorry. Let me start this over. God damn it. All right, let me try that again.
As he does.
Yes, let me try that again. One of my favorite 4v1s.
Asymmetrical.
Thank you. That asymmetrical horror games, Dead by Daylight, is getting yet another content update. Castlevania is coming on August 27th with a playable Dracula and Trevor Belmont as a survivor. So that's fucking cool. Seems like a sure win for that. I remember when we ran the website and they would continuously send me codes for their freaking killer drops. And I'm like, bro, you gotta stop. I don't have time to write all this stuff and play it and test it. Oh my God.
Didn't you have one of the more watched videos too, explaining mechanics or something like that too?
So that was before we did videos. I only ever did like a couple of videos. It was my tips and tricks for not sucking at Dead by Daylight, because it came out on PC first in early access, and I was one of the early players, and then it came to console, and by that time I had already put like 200 or 300 hours into the game, so I wrote an article that was like tips and tricks to not suck, because there's no voice comms, there's this and that, and there's tricks that we developed as survivors and tricks you develop as the killer. So I made an article, and I think over its lifetime it got like a good couple thousand views. It was a good article, but they're a great developer. They make fantastic updates to that game all the time. If you have never played it, Dead by Daylight is a fantastic horror experience where you are actually playing against another person who's trying to kill you, and you are trying to survive. And it's just
4v1.
There's no voice chat. You can't talk. It's awesome. It's so great. It's terrifying and it's fun.
I've personally never been into them, but that's just me.
That's fine. There's been a lot of games to try and do that asymmetric style, and they're just never as good as Dead by Daylight.
Yep, that's definitely the cream of the crop for sure.
Next up, a fan remake of Fallout 1 following the news of Fallout London, which has been apparently pretty buggy, but the developers of that mod, remember this is a mod they made for free in their own time. They're working on it. But Fallout 1 is getting a remake with first-person mechanics. It's real-time combat. It's going to be a very different experience from the original Fallout 1. That demo is available to play now. If you Google Fallout 1 remake demo, you'll probably find out how to play it. Says something about having to join the Discord here. Went live on August 8th. You can download it and play and see if it's any good. And then the last one I have for quickfire here is Enshrouded, a very, very cool survival crafting game that I'm a big fan of, that I still...
Voxel-based.
Yeah, voxel-based crafting. Haven't gotten a chance to play the official release. I played it during the Next Fest. Did a remote interview with the devs. We actually talked about that. And all of those Q&A are actually posted for free on our Patreon if you want to see the Q&A with them. They answered some questions there. Enshrouded, it just broke 3 million players, so they're doing great. Came from Keen Games. The only other game they made was Portal Knights, so good for them. Happy for them. I hope to see more from them, and I believe they're getting a console release later next month or sometime soon. I can't remember which, but it's on PC
it's
currently.
Later in the year. I don't remember exactly when, but yeah.
It's on PC currently, but they do plan on releasing on consoles, so check it out.
My turn, huh?
Yep, that's you. The awkward silence did it for you.
Well, I was typing something out, so I was hoping you'd finish talking or something. Anyways, so I've got a few things myself, and the first one, you guys have probably heard about it. I'm sure you know about this already, but if you don't, then I would be wary about going to see the Borderlands movie, which just launched. It apparently is basically hot garbage. The Rotten Tomatoes website had it at a 0%. I don't think any movie has ever gotten that low for the first like two days or so, and then finally one positive popped up and brought it up to 4%, I think. And I think a second review has come out that's like mixed or whatever, and so now it sits at a 6%. But I mean, either way, that's still pretty damn bad. IGN's words on their blurb is, Borderlands is a catastrophic disappointment that plays like hacked to pieces studio slop, betraying everything fans adore about Gearbox Software's franchise in derivative, regrettable fashion.
Oof.
And that's pretty much been the majority of it. I've seen one positive comment on Twitter from some random nobody that I don't know who it is, that basically said he enjoyed the movie. I've seen quite a bit from the name escapes me, but the head behind Gearbox. He was all excited about it and posting stuff and whatnot. But of course, that's kind of his job. It's his franchise. Of course, he's going to talk it up.
Yep, that's what they do.
But I still want to see it, even though it's so bad, but I'll probably wait for it to be free on like HBO or something.
Yeah,
like
I won't pay for it. I won't pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on, a few months back, we talked about a game called Kingmaker. Basically, it is the Evil Dead 2 in a video game.
3.
You're in medieval
3.
Huh?
Evil Dead 3.
Oh, 3. Yeah, my bad. Evil Dead 3, where you're in medieval times with shotguns and freaking Apache helicopters and all sorts of other crazy stuff. The game isn't even out yet, but they've already sold the rights for a live action film. So that's happening. It's kind of strange, but at the same time, that would make for a really interesting movie, long as it's done right.
That just tells you how done Hollywood is with being original. We need a new movie. Quick, somebody find an indie game and throw a dart at a board. Like, buy that movie or buy that game for the script. Like,
more or less. I mean, I think it could be interesting. It just depends on who makes it.
Yeah,
really.
Dude, if that doesn't tell you that Hollywood is fucking dead.
Yeah, they've been dead for a while. Yeah. I think after COVID, basically everything has pretty much been shit.
The only person there making anything worth a damn watching is fucking Christopher Nolan. He's the only one making movies worth watching. Well, maybe not. That's probably hyperbole, but like, Oppenheimer's fucking great. If you haven't seen Oppenheimer, it's fucking great.
I have yet to see it,
dude.
But I've heard good stuff.
It's on Amazon Prime. Fucking watch it. It's great.
Gotcha. I probably have to pay for it though, because I don't pay for Amazon Prime.
Yeah, if you don't, then yeah.
I have Amazon Prime, but usually the movies on the Prime Video are not free.
I'm pretty sure this one.
Pay for
I'm pretty sure this one's still free. You go ahead and talk. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the next bit of news is Remedy has announced a little bit of information on some of the games they're working on. Control 2 is now in a playable state, which is great because that was a phenomenal game, and I cannot wait for the second. Max Payne 1 and 2 Remake is now in full production, which is good. Of course, that still means it's a while away. And lastly, the sad news, which everyone expected to be the case, Alan Wake 2 is still not profitable after a year after launch. But that, is expected when the game wasn't in a physical state. It is now, but it wasn't in a physical state when it came out for consoles. You had to buy it digitally. And they decided to launch exclusively on the Epic Game Store. So that kind of left Steam players out of the mix for quite a while. And yeah, so not a good choice. And
once again, limiting where you release limits your income.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I knew it was going to eventually get a physical release. So I'm not going to sit here and buy a digital on PlayStation when I just get the physical release later down the line. And it's released on physical now, but they released it in such a state where it's $80 instead of $70. But they also give you the Alan Wake 1 remake or remaster or whatever it is. Yeah, that they came out. So I mean, the deal isn't bad. Don't get me wrong. I just didn't want to spend about $80 on it. I'll buy it eventually, but just not right now.
Oppenheimer is still free on Amazon Prime. It's included with Prime. So for those of you who haven't seen it, go fucking watch Oppenheimer. It is an amazing film.
Don't just go watch it. Go fucking watch it.
Go fucking watch it.
All right, the next one. This one, it seems like a stretch to me, but it would certainly be nice. And if it's done right, then that would be awesome. But I do know that, I mean, heck, we talked about this probably 3 months ago now. The PS5 Pro, the graphics, the graphics card update that they're getting is actually going to have I forget what the word is, the terminology, but there's going to be a dedicated graphics driver or something like that for their DLSS, as they're calling PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. Basically, it's supposed to, people are saying that, have inside knowledge, they're saying that it's going to make games feel 100% faster than the base PlayStation 5, even though it's not getting major updates on the CPU and RAM and things of that sort. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if that's actually the case, or like, if the game feels 100% faster, that would suggest that 60 FPS games are going to run at 120 FPS with little to no problems.
Simulated,
and, imagine,
I think, yeah. Or
yeah, well, of course, you're going to have that frame injection or something along those lines. At least I would assume frame injection would be in there because that is now a DLSS feature or whatever they call it now.
Right.
But even still, like, can you imagine playing Call of Duty against people that are on base PS5 or Xbox Series S for that matter, since there's crossplay on these? You're going to have such a massive advantage. It's going to be insane. I mean, you might even have a better advantage than, you would have a better advantage than the majority of PC players, because the majority of PC players actually have potato PCs if you go by Steam stats.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, frames are definitely helpful in shooters, but if you suck at shooters, more frames isn't going to help you. So
true, but it is still going to give you a pretty good advantage.
It will give you an
30
advantage.
FPS over 60 is a pretty big difference, and 60 over 120.
Yeah, it is a big advantage, but if you still suck at shooters, you're still going to... A great player at 30 is a god at 120, right? And a decent player at 30 is a good player at 120. So,
But I mean, that's just a single game.
Yeah.
Pretty much, if the game's going to run that much better, 100% faster.
Sure.
That's you said earlier. That kind of sounds like hyperbole. I mean, even if it's 50% better, that's a bigger jump than the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. Like those are all marginal improvements. But of course, they didn't have these AI models, super resolution bumps to them. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah,
and if it happens, that'd be really cool to see if that's going to be available to all developers.
I think the console world needs to get out of the 30-60 FPS, and they need to make that jump to 120. So if the Pro is going to do it, that's what it needs. Dude, PC gamers are doing like 240 and higher now on reg. Like, sure, Steam stats says the majority of people play on potatoes, but I personally know a handful of gamers who are like, bro, if I'm not rocking 240 hertz, why am I even playing? I'm like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, I'm the guy that's like, I'm gonna lower my frame rate to 30 so the game looks pretty. Yeah, but anyways, that's just me. I'm definitely interested to see what they do with the PlayStation 5 Pro, even though it's still not official. It's all but official at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Switch 2. Everybody knows it's coming.
Exactly. There's been a lot of rumors lately over the past like 2 or 3 days as well that Sony is going to have some sort of like showcase later in the year, which when they show off the PS5 Pro, they're also going to show off a lot of the games they've been really silent on because the vast majority of their developers have been really freaking silent over the past like 4 years. So there's supposedly going to be some huge announcements, and that 2025 is going to be a gigantic year for them, and I'm fucking ready for it. I'm pretty sure one of our first episodes, I was like, they said 3 years ago that they have 40 projects in the damn works.
Yep.
And where the hell are they?
So, I'm going to call it now. 2025, we're going to see our first drop for Ghost of Tsushima 2.
Yeah,
I'm calling it now.
Hope so.
I'm fucking calling it. Put it on the record, Mike. Put it on the record. Calling it now.
Yeah. Speaking of PlayStation exclusives, the Order 1886 actually had a sequel in the works. And they were highly focused on gameplay improvements, considering that was what the majority of people had problems with the first one. They called it a walking simulator for the most part. But unfortunately, when Meta bought them, they canceled production and the game's no longer being made. And even more unfortunate news, Ready at Dawn, the developers, were actually shut down by Meta this last week, which is sad. Because I loved it, the Order 1886. I mean, sure, it was 5 hours long. It was super short, but it was, I mean, even now, go look at gameplay of that game. That game still looks better than the majority of games graphically. That game is so freaking pretty. It's insane.
A 5 hour, yes. A 5 hour game now sounds like a godsend.
I know. You can play it and you can beat it in like 2 sessions. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Get it done in less than a month. I'm in.
Right. It's crazy what being a dad and growing up does to you. You're like,
yep. Well, I mean, here's the thing too, right? Like they call that a walking simulator, like it's a bad thing, but everybody fucking loves Hellblade, which spoiler, it's a goddamn walking simulator. So yeah, I don't know. I'm sure it's a great game. I never got around to playing it. Maybe one day I will. But anytime that there's a sequel in the works and it gets canceled and then the studio gets shut down, it's always a bad time. So
yeah, it sucks. I just hope that they come together as a new studio and they're either indie or get picked up by somebody else. I mean, I'm sure they're going to find work because they are good developers, but we'll see.
It's rough out there.
Yes, especially right now.
Yeah.
So next on the list is more console news. The rumors are having it that the Switch 2 is going to see major, like all caps, major third-party AAA support. And I don't know if that's just via ports of games that already exist, or just if all the upcoming games are also going to support it. The rumor has it that AMD is actually making the chip on this. Not AMD, I'm sorry. NVIDIA is actually making the graphics chip on this one, and it will actually support DLSS, which would be a godsend for that device. The rumors are also saying that it's going to be basically this powerful as a Steam Deck. So that'll be interesting to see. If it's as powerful as a Steam Deck and has DLSS on top of it, that's good news.
That's pretty much where I expect it to be. I do not expect it to be ahead of the Steam Deck. I expect it to be basically on par with it.
I mean, if it's got DLSS, technically it's going to be better than the Steam Deck.
Arguably, if you care about that stuff. I personally hate all of that stuff. I think it makes the games look like ass, personally, but it's just me.
It depends on if it supports DLSS 3 or not. If it supports, say, 1 or 2, then it's not going to be great. But DLSS 3 is pretty darn good.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. Anyways, the last that I have is Microsoft. Actually, speaking of DLSS, Microsoft launched their own, essentially, DLSS. It's called Auto Super Resolution, and it is basically DLSS. It makes the resolution, and I don't know if it actually affects frame rate, but I believe it's resolution. It basically just makes the game look better. It has to be set at 720p for some reason. I guess that's just how they take that base image and it enhances it to look a lot better. And it does actually work on every video game. It doesn't necessarily have a list of supported games and it only works on those. Although it does have a list of supported games that I think that it's optimized for those ones. And there's not very many on that optimized list, but you can still turn it on for every single video game you have. And it is a little bit limited. Instead of it being like AI supported based on the frames before and the frames after, this only works on the frame that is supposed to be displayed. So, if it's a 30 FPS game, it's only going to take the frame that's coming and work on that and make that look better. It can't take a history of what it's seen and whatnot, so it is a little bit limited. But I mean, even still, if you go look at the Digital Foundry video that they had on it, it's a pretty substantial upgrade on just about every game they showed. And for it being free and it not being a major bog on your CPU or whatever, I mean, it's pretty nice piece of software, I have to admit.
Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for us tonight then, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening or watching this on YouTube or joining us here on Twitch. Again, we're going to head over to our Patreon now and do a little bit more content over there. We're going to talk about 2 upcoming games. One from Daedalic Entertainment called The Occultist. Another one from a developer I did not catch the name, is Vapor World, excuse me. Vaporware. Yeah. Same, right? Same. Words are hard. And WB is apparently looking at outsourcing their next games. So if you want to hear about that, you'll have to head over to our Patreon and join us there. $3 a month supports this show, helps us continue to do stuff, helps us grow in the best way possible. If you want to support us any other way, just tell people we're here, say hi, check out this podcast. I like these guys. They're fun.
Subscribe to us on X or Twitch or YouTube or all of them.
All the places. It's always great. So thanks everybody. We will see you next time.
Tell your mama said hi.